You're about to fall asleep. The light is off. The body begins to relax, but something in you is still watching. There is a moment between the last thought and the first dream in which reality becomes malleable, like clay. Almost no one notices, but the ancient Egyptians knew. This is the invisible portal where the mind can be reprogrammed. At this moment, you enter the alpha state, a brainwave frequency where the conscious mind goes quiet, and the subconscious accepts commands as absolute truths. It was in this state that the initiates of Egyptian mysteries invoked the archetype of Thoth, scribe of universal laws, to record new realities in the hidden book of the psyche. Today, science calls this neuroplasticity, but the essence remains the same. Whoever knows what to write in this state shapes their own existence. And now you are going to learn a secret 3-night ritual based on the principles of Thoth and the openings of the alpha state, which allows you to restructure beliefs, thoughts, and perceptions without conscious effort. But be warned, once you learn to access this field, nothing will ever be the same again. Most people believe that reality changes through action, but the ancients knew something deeper. Before changing the outer world, one must alter the hidden structure of perception. In ancient Egypt, this structure was called the invisible record, a subtle field where everything you think, feel, and believe is recorded, not with ink, but with intention, emotion, and repetition. And who did this recording? Thoth. Not just a god, but a universal principle. He represented consciousness's ability to observe, name, and imprint truth. Thoth was the scribe of the laws of Ma'at, the cosmic order, the stitching between the world of the word and the field that precedes it. He didn't create the laws, he recorded them. Because everything that is recorded manifests. And this is exactly what you do every day without realizing it. With every recurring thought, with every belief you silently reinforce, you act as the scribe of your own reality. But here is the blind spot. Most of these inscriptions happen in a specific mental state, the alpha state. It is at this point in the journey that the mind opens. The conscious steps back, and symbolic language takes over. The initiates knew that Thoth acts not as an external entity, but as an internal force that translates intention into mental form. And if you learn to access this state consciously, you can take on the role of the scribe. You can rewrite what once seemed unchangeable. In the next few minutes, you will understand why the alpha state is the key, how it manifests, and how to apply the principle of Thoth to restructure your mental field in just 3 nights. Get ready! What you are about to learn is simple yet profound, practical yet symbolic, and it can completely change the way your mind interacts with reality. Throughout history, whenever a new level of consciousness was sought, the ancients turned to rituals, not as superstition, but as symbolic technology. They understood that repetition, intention, and timing form a powerful triad for altering internal structures. What we are about to explore is no different. This is a mental ritual grounded in the science of neuroplasticity and based on the archetypal principle of Thoth, the organizer of words, the fixer of laws, the one who turns thought into lasting form. But unlike rituals filled with external elements, this one requires only your attention, your presence, and 3 well-directed nights. It was designed to work in layers. Each night fulfills a specific function within the process of mental reinscription. The first night is for conscious declaration. It is when you plant the new idea with clarity and intention. The second night is for subconscious immersion, the moment when the suggestion dives deeper, passing through mental filters. And the third night is for neurological and symbolic reinforcement, the stage that consolidates the reprogramming, generating new pathways in the brain. It's important to understand you won't just repeat phrases. You will use your mind as a living writing field and intentionally guide it through the stages that facilitate the installation of a new belief. Many try to change thoughts by fighting them, but the initiates knew. You don't erase a mental code by force. You replace it with something stronger at the right time. And the right time is always when the mind is receptive, not judging, not resisting, just absorbing. In other words, in the alpha state. By aligning this state with a 3-layer ritual, you activate an inner intelligence that doesn't depend on logical effort, but on emotional precision and symbolic repetition. And here lies the beauty of the method. It is discreet, simple, but profoundly effective. 3 nights, 3 layers of action, and a single intention to rewrite what once seemed fixed. It all begins with the right way to declare, then with the right way to dive in, and finally with the precise gesture to consolidate. Each stage has its own rhythm, its own logic, and its own power. The first night has a very clear function, to establish the new pattern with intention. But it's not enough to say pretty words or repeat random affirmations. It's necessary to use short, direct, positive phrases in the present tense. Choosing the right phrase is part of the ritual. It should reflect not only what you desire, but, more importantly, what you are ready to embrace. Something like, "I trust the flow of life," or "My mind cooperates with my evolution." Avoid negations. Avoid exaggeration. Use words that provoke an authentic emotional response, not memorized phrases that sound like empty promises. Write this phrase by hand, preferably in a notebook reserved solely for this purpose. This physical writing reinforces the symbol of the record, the act of turning an idea into form. After that, allow your body to begin falling asleep without hurry. And in the moments before sleep, when thoughts become soft and inner images start to appear, repeat the chosen phrase gently, as if it were being whispered in the back of your mind. This moment requires no effort. In fact, the more passive your posture, the deeper the impact. It's like offering a message to the messenger. You don't need to force it to reach its destination. You just need to deliver it truthfully. On the second night, the process changes form. Now it's time to deepen the inscription. For that, you'll explore the moment when the mind is between sleep cycles, especially when you wake up in the middle of the night, either naturally or with a gentle alarm. Upon waking during this interval, don't move abruptly. Stay lying down. Keep your eyes half closed and your breathing slow. Return to the phrase from the previous night, simply letting it echo within you. Don't try to visualize it. Don't try to feel anything specific. Just let it be present. In this intermediate state, the brain operates between theta and alpha waves, perfect territories for symbolic installation. There, the mind absorbs more easily because critical thinking is asleep, but perception is still active. At the end, don't force your return to sleep. Just allow it to come, knowing the message was delivered with precision. On the third and final night, the gesture changes again. Now it's time to consolidate. Not just repeat or reinforce what was previously said, but signal to the brain that this new idea is no longer an experiment. It is a reality in the process of installation. For this, there is a small detail that makes all the difference. You will write the same phrase with your non-dominant hand. This simple act provokes a neurological pattern shift. It demands attention, presence, and a slight effort. And it's precisely there that the brain reorganizes. The body understands that something unusual is happening, and what is unusual gets noticed. Neuroscientists have already proven that using the opposite hand activates less accessed regions of the brain, especially those linked to creativity and reframing and learning. It's as if you were opening a new path within your own mental network. After writing, close the notebook. Sit or lie down in silence. Now comes the most delicate part of process, embodied visualization. This isn't about imagining something as if it were a fantasy, but allowing the mind to create a scene where that chosen phrase is already happening. If the phrase is, "I trust the flow of life," then see yourself acting with lightness in a situation that used to cause tension. If it's, "I am worthy of receiving love," then feel yourself in an environment where that love is already flowing freely. The key here is not to force emotion, but to allow sensation. The brain does not distinguish what is real from what is vividly felt. And the more natural this mental experience is, the more deeply it will be recorded. When the image stabilizes, remain in it for a few moments. Then go to sleep with that sensation still present, without trying to analyze or over-understand it. You don't need to understand the language of the subconscious. You just need to speak to it in the language it recognizes. Image, repetition, emotion, and rhythm. This is the final gesture of the practice. And as simple as it may seem, it has the power to close the cycle with the elegance of someone who doesn't demand transformation, but invites it with respect. Nothing truly permanent is imposed on the mind through force. But what is welcomed with care almost always takes root. And that is exactly what begins to happen after the third night. Changes usually don't arrive as grand revelations. They appear in the details, in how you perceive yourself in the same situations, in the lightness that arises when reacting to something that once triggered resistance, in the new silent language that begins to echo inside, more affirming, conscious, more aligned with what you want to live. Often there's no need to rationally understand what changed. What matters is that without deliberate effort, you begin to act, choose, and feel from anew. And that point is precisely where the ritual operated. It's not about magic nor manipulation. It's neural adaptation, emotional reframing, and symbolic language reclaiming its place as a legitimate instrument of transformation. The principle of that does not operate as a miracle, but as a restored order within the mind. Something that was once scattered begins to align. Confusion gives way to direction, and automatic repetition is replaced by intentional presence. These signs are subtle but consistent. The more you observe without judgment, the more you notice that the external reality also begins to respond. New ideas arise, people resonate differently, and situations that once repeated in closed loops begin to dissolve. It's as if the external environment were reading the new code that was imprinted internally. This process does not require forced maintenance. On the contrary, the more you let go, the more it integrates. It's the difference between someone trying to control every outcome and someone allowing reality to reflect what has truly been reconfigured. And if, at some point, it becomes necessary to return to the ritual, it won't be out of dependence, but out of reverence for the power that is born from conscious repetition. Thoth, as an archetype, represents exactly that. The continuous cycle of writing and rewriting, not as correction, but as evolution. Each time you choose what you want to record, you are remembering that you are not a prisoner of your own mind. You are the scribe, and the space where you write remains available. Every night, every time it is needed, you are not looking at a beautiful theory or just another technique to forget in 2 days. You are standing at the edge where repetition becomes choice, and choice becomes transformation. A direct access to the inner architecture you've always carried within. This practice is simple, profound, and silent. It doesn't require you to believe. It only requires you to experience it with honesty. 3 nights may seem like little, but when applied with presence, they become portals of real reorganization. You begin to realize that you are not trapped in the stories you inherited, the voices you repeated, or the narratives the world imposed on you. You have the power to decide. And more than that, you have the tool. The ritual you've learned here is a starting point, but its strength reveals itself in everyday life, in how you begin to listen to your thoughts, to write your words, to decide what stays within you and what will be rewritten. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That is the essence of what Thoth represents. The intelligence capable of interrupting the automatic cycle and inscribing a new direction with clarity, with intention, and with truth. Now you already know how to access this mental space. You already know the right moment and what to do with it. Only one question remains. Will you keep being a spectator of your pattern, or will you pick up the pen? The scribe already awakened in you does not ask for answers. He simply observes and writes, because every reality is born from the sound you allow to echo within you. If this content spoke to you on any level, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Write in the comments the phrase, "I claim the authorship of my reality." This helps seal the commitment internally. Send this video to someone who also needs to awaken this power, and click the screen to dive into another transformative journey. Remember, it's not the world that needs to change first. It's the story you tell yourself every night before falling asleep.